A state celebrated for its diverse communities and richest minority population, there is an underlying problem of youth from economically disadvantaged backgrounds making up the majority of our prison system.
According to the Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, more than 60% of incarcerated youth come from families living below the federal poverty line.
The U.S. Department of Justice also reveals that economic hardship and inequalities have contributed to a 15% increase in youth incarceration over the past decade. This brings us to the question, to what extent does poverty play a role in youth incarceration in Maryland?
Are there specific neighborhoods or communities where youth arrests are more common? If so, why do you think that is?
Here in Greenbelt, it would be Franklin Park apartments, and I think, like you said, it's more low-income families over there.
In your experience, what are the most common reasons youth in Maryland become involved with the justice system?
Auto theft right now.
Along with auto theft, drug distribution and robbery remain the top 3 reasons that youth become incarcerated in Maryland.
How often do you see cases where poverty plays a role in youth offending?
I would say more than half of the time, the family's in poverty.
Officer Pineda paints a picture of a system where economic struggle often leaves youth with fewer options. It makes them more vulnerable to the attractions of crime to the point where over half of youth offenders are from less fortunate backgrounds.
Hey, officer, do you think poverty contributes to youth incarceration?
I definitely think that poverty has a direct correlation to, our youth students or our youth in general. Going down that pipeline and having issues with the law. I think when you're a young, I'll just speak from the male perspective because I'm a man. But I think when you're a young man and you're seeing your mother or your grandmother or whoever takes care of you struggling to provide for you, I think that as soon as possible, guys are easier to give in to temptation of the streets or different things where they can or they're trying to get fast money or they're trying to get the things that their classmates.
For many young people living in poverty, schools lack resources and funding, there are no stable job opportunities, and when families are struggling to make ends meet, the temptation into crime isn't always about luxury, it's about survival. And the justice system is offering punishment rather than help, causing this cycle to continue. To explore the topic of whether the justice system is built to rehabilitate youth or just punish them, we talked to someone who has been involved with the justice system themselves for over 30 years, Officer Pineda and Coach Sean once again.
Can you share what led to your involvement with the justice system?
I started in the justice system when I was like 14 because I was always fighting. At the root of it, it was because I was abused as a little boy. My father used to beat me half to death, literally. And so I told myself that when I got big enough, we're not gonna take no more beatings. And at the age of 13, I was getting ready to kill him. So that changed my whole destiny. I was highly violent. I was very mean in a lot of ways. I only got along with very few people. They would say that the only time they were safe was when I was on a basketball court, because that was my safety place. I could be me, play ball, the person I wanted to do, but when I left the basketball court, I was not a very peaceful individual.
Do you think the justice system provides enough support to help young people avoid reoffending?
Absolutely not. A young person don't stand a chance because of the attractions in prison. For instance, I'm not trying to assume, but you may know dudes that who have brothers or fathers that are in prison that tell them the wrong things. You might know some dudes who have their friends and their big brother say, man, you can go ahead and do that. 5 years is not going to hurt you. 5 years can turn into 40. 5 years can turn into a death sentence. 5 years can get them killed. So that's a lie. That's a bold lie. Maryland has a high level of gangs dealing with Baltimore and certain other places. So coming from this area, PG, they usually lump up with DC if they got family members. And so there's a constant struggle, constant fight, constant war going on.
Do you believe the current system is effective in rehabilitating young offenders? Why or why not?
I do not believe the system is set up that way right now because we have a lot of repeat offenders.
In your experience, do students from lower income backgrounds face different challenges that lead to disciplinary actions?
Absolutely. I'll just, from my experience, most, not all, but most of my students that are coming from, poverty-stricken environments, those are probably my students that, I probably have to give the most academic support to. Those are the students that I probably have to, support a little bit more when it comes to rides and basic guidance and just how to navigate their situations. Those kids tend to be a little bit more edgy as well, as far as like they don't fear things as much, just from being in certain circumstances or whatever the case may be. And I can almost say that those are the ones that I have to support them outside of sports or school a lot more than the students who come from a little bit more of a stable environment.
There are not enough programs that make sense, especially now at this part. And the reason why I say that, because I work in the court now as a forensic peer, which means that I deal with everything criminal justice, from at-risk youth all the way to people who have done 30, 40 years coming home out of prison. So I run the whole thing in regards to that, dealing with people. Youth, they don't have the right programs. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people say punishment or rub the back of the hand. What happens is both fail. You need to be able to talk to the person to understand where they're at before you can understand what to do. If I can't listen to you, how can I help you? You know what I mean? I'm quite sure y'all ran into them adults that know every dang on thing. Don't listen to you 1 iota. And that's where a lot of people fail, because we don't listen. But when we take the time to listen, to understand, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and weigh things accordingly, that's when people can be helped. Because a lot of people are hurting for one reason or another.
As our journey through Maryland's youth incarceration system comes to a close, one message remains clear. Poverty is not a crime, yet it's a condition that too many young people have been forced to endure. Throughout this documentary, we've seen how economic hardships have limited opportunities and narrow the choices available to our youth. When schools are under-resourced, when communities lack the support of stable jobs, and there are no meaningful mentorship opportunities, young people are often left with very few alternatives but to turn to illegal activities and choices that will then become grounds for future punishment. The justice system is supposed to be designed to protect and rehabilitate, has instead become something that too often criminalizes poverty. While accountability is necessary, we need to recognize that these jailing measures do not address the root causes of crime. These are not isolated incidents, but they are part of a broader social and economic neglect. Our young people deserve more than fines and arrest. They deserve our attention, our investment, and our genuine commitment to change. Reforming the juvenile justice system means rethinking our approach. It means having restorative practices, helping education and mentorship programs, and providing support networks that listen to the voices of at-risk youth. We need policies that are informed by empathy and grounded in understanding that when you address poverty, you address crime at its source. By investing in community programs and creating pathways to stable employment and offering guidance through mentorship, we can break this cycle that causes so many young individuals to be incarcerated. In Maryland and beyond, The call to reform is not just a matter of justice. We need to commit to a future where young people are met with opportunities, not obstacles, where their potential is nurtured rather than criminalized, and where we collectively work towards a society that uplifts every individual, regardless of their economic background.